At 3 a.m., they broke into a veteran's home, hiding behind fake badges and pretend power. Henry Carter, the trusted HOA leader, had turned neighborhood safety into a secret money-making scheme. But John Mason had something they didn't expect: battle-ready instincts, a strong house, and no fear. What happened next was a wild fight, and justice hit harder than anyone thought possible. John Mason didn't wake to an alarm or a bad dream. He woke to a sound no one should hear in the middle of the night: a quiet, careful click, like someone testing a lock. His hand slid to his nightstand, touching the cold handle of his pistol, but he didn't grab it yet. The clock glowed red, 3:02 a.m. Then the bedroom door creaked open. His 17-year-old son, Ethan, stood in the hallway, tall but scared, his eyes wide. They didn't need words. Ethan pulled on a hoodie, breathing fast. He knew the house shouldn't sound like this. John moved like a shadow, silent on the hardwood floor. No panic, just focus, like he'd never left the battlefield. He crouched by the nightstand and opened a drawer. Inside was his old rifle, clean and ready, and a short shotgun built for close fights. Then came a sound he hadn't heard since his soldier days: metal snapping. The front door's lock broke, and it slammed open, shaking the glass in the living room. A loud voice shouted, "Greenwood HO, hands up!" John's mind worked fast. Greenwood HOA at 3 a.m.? That wasn't real. The voice sounded wrong, not like real police. He heard heavy steps on the stairs. Ethan stayed low by the door, watching his dad. John nodded slightly. "Stay still." Two men in black masks appeared, one with a taser, the other holding a messy-looking shotgun. Their chests had patches that said Greenwood HOA Police in peeling letters. John stepped into the hall, slow and quiet. He didn't raise his gun yet. The taller man turned, and that was his mistake. John fired once, hitting the man's chest. He fell back, crashing against the wall. The second man froze for a second, too long. John swung his shotgun up and fired, the blast knocking the man down. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. Ethan gripped the doorframe, breathing hard. "Dad," he whispered. "Who were they?" John scanned for movement, shotgun still ready. "Not cops," he said calmly. "Just fools who picked the wrong house." He took a radio from one of the men and spoke clearly. "This is John Mason, 124 Maple Lane. 2 armed men broke in. One's down, one's hurt. Send police." He sat against the wall, gun across his knees, waiting. 6 minutes later, sirens wailed. Red and blue lights flashed through the windows. Police boots hit the ground. John stood on his porch, calm and steady, like he was back at a military base. A young deputy shouted, "Hands up, Mr. Mason." But a taller man, Sheriff Bill Thompson, stepped forward, calm and firm. "Easy," he said to his team. "This man doesn't shoot without a reason." John nodded toward the hall. "One's dead, one's barely breathing. Get him to the hospital if you want answers." Inside, one man lay against the stairs, blood soaking his black clothes, his chest moving weakly. He hadn't expected a fight, especially not from a soldier who'd fought in tough places. Paramedics rushed in, but the second man was already gone, still and quiet. Sheriff Thompson checked the body and saw the Greenwood HOA Police patch, cheap, with authority spelled wrong, missing a letter. He walked to a black van outside, its side marked with the same bad spelling. Inside were fake forms, notepads, and clipboards meant to look real but weren't. Thompson rubbed his face. "Someone's paying for this," he said. "They had your gate code, knew your house. Someone helped them." John crossed his arms. "Think they picked me by mistake?" Thompson met his eyes. "No. They either didn't know you, or they knew and thought you'd back down." A quiet wind blew leaves across the driveway. John said, "They tested the wrong door." Thompson shook his head. "No, they tested the right one. They just failed." The police took photos and bagged fake IDs. No one talked about arresting John. This wasn't just a break-in. It was something bigger, planned and hidden. By morning, Maple Grove buzzed with rumors. The neat suburb wasn't talking about lawns anymore. People whispered about fake cops, a midnight raid, and a veteran who fought back. No one said John's name out loud, but everyone knew. Some looked at him with respect, others with worry, scared that danger had come to their quiet streets. The Greenwood HOA posted a short message. "We don't know these people. We don't do raids or home checks. We're helping the police." It was on their website and on flyers next to bake sale signs, but it felt too clean, too quick. John read it, his jaw tight. Someone was using the HOA as a cover, maybe someone inside. They knew too much, his schedule, that he had no dog, where Ethan slept, how long police took to arrive. But they didn't know John, a soldier who never slowed down. They thought he'd be an easy target, half asleep. They were wrong. In the kitchen, Ethan sat at the counter, typing fast on his laptop, his face serious. "Dad, look at this," he said. John walked over. The screen showed small news stories, fake housing checks in nearby towns. Homeowners report nighttime visits by fake officials. Teen missing after HOA stop, no charges. The stories were the same. People in fake uniforms, no real IDs, no police, and cases closed quietly. "These aren't random," Ethan said. "They're testing neighborhoods, finding easy targets. Nobody fought back. Until you." John read slowly, a knot in his chest. "We'll bring it to light," he said, his voice like stone. It wasn't loud, but it meant war. Not with guns, but with truth, secrets, and exposing lies. If they thought John Mason would stay quiet, they didn't know him at all. The Greenwood HOA meeting hall was bright with sunlight, but the air was heavy. Neighbors sat quietly, glancing nervously. John walked in, wearing a dark jacket, and sat in the back corner, watching everything. He wasn't there to talk, he was there to see. At the front stood Edward Grant, the HOA leader, in his late 50s with neat gray hair and glasses. He looked trustworthy, always smiling, never loud. People liked him, believed him, but today he seemed nervous. Edward cleared his throat. "About the recent incident," he said carefully. "2 men broke into a home. One died, one's in the hospital. They weren't with us. We don't do raids." He paused, like his words could fix everything. Then he said, "We can't control who comes into Maple Grove all the time. This was out of our hands." John stood slowly. Everyone turned to him. A woman clutched her sweater. "You can't control it?" John said, his voice sharp but calm. "When I moved here, I signed papers saying you have cameras, gate codes, and logs for every car. You're saying you didn't give that to the sheriff?" Edward's hands gripped the podium. "We're checking the footage, Mr. Mason. Some files are broken, others are with lawyers." John stepped forward and dropped a flash drive on the table. Clicked loudly. "You don't need to check," he said. "That has video from 2 nights before. Their van, same bad spelling, entered the east gate at 11:47 p.m. No code, no ID, but the gate opened. Someone let them in." People shifted in their seats, whispering. Edward stared at the drive, frozen. "We're looking into it," he stammered. John turned to the crowd. He said they can't control who comes in. Now we know that's a lie. Someone inside helped. No one spoke. John walked out, his steps echoing. Edward stood still, and the flash drive sat untouched, but its truth was already spreading. 2 days later, trouble hit again. Thomas Reed, a retired Navy veteran, was attacked at his Maple Grove home. Men in fake uniforms came at night, no warning, no warrants. They were in and out in 90 seconds, leaving Thomas hurt but alive. They took nothing, just sent a message. Sheriff Thompson called John at dawn. "This wasn't random," he said. "You're next, or they're using you to scare others." "Understood," John said. He was ready. His house was now a fortress, new locks, cameras, alarms, even a quiet drone watching from above. Old soldier friends brought tools and sensors, no questions asked. John planned every detail, ready for danger. But he made one choice first. He sent Ethan away with a plane ticket. On the front step, Ethan asked, "Why now?" John put a hand on his shoulder. "If this ends badly, I don't want you here. I can't fight if I'm worried about you." Ethan nodded, jaw tight, and left. At 2:58 a.m., a sensor buzzed. John was ready, sitting in his basement with glowing screens. For shadows moved outside, slow and trained, not like the first men. An explosion hit the back door, small, controlled. They rushed in, wearing real armor and quiet rifles, moving like soldiers. John whispered, "The first ones were a trick. This is the real fight." He flipped a switch. Bright lights flashed inside, blinding them. A siren screamed outside, marking their spots. Steel bars locked windows and doors sealed shut. John grabbed his shotgun and moved silently through a hidden hall. The air was still, but his mind was sharp. He'd survived ambushes before, but this was his home. He saw a shadow in the guest room, gun raised. John stepped out and fired, no warning. The fight lasted 6 minutes. 3 men fell on the first floor, 1 in the hall, 1 by the laundry, 1 in the kitchen. The 4th went upstairs. John followed with his pistol. In the guest room, shots flew fast. 1 hit John's shoulder, but he kept going. 10 seconds later, it was over. John sat against the wall, pressing his wound, breathing steady. 2 men escaped, their blood on the stairs. A hard knock came. "John, it's Thompson. Lower your gun." John set his pistol down and opened the door. Thompson saw the wound. "You're hit," he said. "Clean through," John replied. Inside, bodies lay still. 1 in the hall, 2 more down the way, 1 upstairs. A deputy found an ID. Mark Evans, Greenwood HOA Security. It wasn't fake. Thompson read it slowly. "You said the HOA wasn't involved," John said. Thompson looked at the real gear. "I don't know what we're in anymore," he said. "But you weren't supposed to survive." A week later, John sat in a quiet courtroom. Edward Grant, once the HOA's proud leader, stood pale and shaky. A judge spoke. "You said you didn't know, but all 6 attackers had your clearance. You signed their access. Why?" Edward mumbled, "It was a contract. I didn't know." The judge's gavel slammed. "You knew. You gave them keys." Outside, Thompson walked with John. "He took money," he said. "The security firm scared people to sell houses cheap, then sold them high. You stopped it." John nodded. "They picked the wrong house." He walked past reporters, ignoring their shouts. Victory wasn't about fame. It was knowing Ethan was safe and no one would try again. Back home, John fixed the door but kept a broken piece above the fireplace. A quiet trophy. Maple Grove changed, new cameras, real security, neighbors watching out for each other. Edward and his team went to prison, their scam exposed. John sat on his porch, the night calm, his wound healing. He'd fought, he'd won, and his home was his again. No fake badges could take that away.